guess. I have to be honest here. I've not had any guest who has used the phrase Gazans rather than Hamas, given it was specifically Hamas that perpetrated the appalling terror attacks on October the 7th. It is Hamas that has the governmental power still in Gaza. It's not the Gazan people. It's not the civilian population. So why are you deliberately conflating Gazans in totality with Hamas when Hamas numbers maybe 40, 50,000 maximum out of 2 million?
Florida Congressman Randy Fine sat on Piers Morgan's show and said things that should disqualify a person from holding public office. He defended publicly, saying he does not care about Gazans, not Hamas, Gazans. He called for the deportation of an American citizen over his political views. He argued that immigrant communities hold values other than being American, and Cenk Uygur was at that table and did not do polite silence. Even Piers Morgan, of all people, ended up being the most reasonable voice on the screen by the end of it. Let's watch this, and I'll give you my complete thoughts on the other side.
Congressman Randy Fine. Randy Fine, welcome to Uncensored. But what is your view of Mamdani? I think you want him deported, is that right?
I do. Look, I think Mamdani lied in his naturalization application. He did not share he was a member of DSA. He did not share his affiliation and his love for the 5 Muslim terrorists. And I think that was dishonest. And I don't think he should be a citizen. I think that needs to be investigated, as we need to do for many people who've come in over the last 30 years. One of the most fascinating things about this election in New York is Mamdani is losing overwhelmingly among those who were born in the United States. His only chance of becoming mayor is because of those who grew up with values other than being American. And I think that's something that should alarm everyone.
But the way you phrase that, if I can pick you up on that, what do you mean? I mean, you have to be born in America to be an American. Is that your position?
No, but by the way, there's a reason the framers of our Constitution said that to be president of the United States, you had to be born here. There is something about growing up here, going through your childhood, being inculcated with American values, becoming part of that melting pot that made America great. When my family came here over 100 years ago, they came here because they loved America, not because they wanted to change it. They wanted to become part of the American social fabric. But what you see in New York is people who have come here not to become part of America, but to change America. And there's nothing wrong with America, and there's nothing that fundamentally...
The Israelis have murdered now nearly a dozen Americans in the West Bank. No accountability from our government. And people like Randy Fine say we owe Israel. We owe Israel a genocide. We owe Israel $300 billion. We owe them no accountability at all when they kill American citizens. They had a pervert Israeli government official that came here in Vegas and tried to rape our children, and we let him go. That's insane. Randy Fine, are you asking for the sick Israeli government to return the pedophile so he could face justice here? No, Randy Fine represents Israel, not America. Everybody knows that. He also said we should starve all the Gazans. So he's right. There's a sickness inside our government. AIPAC and the Israeli lobby have given to 90% of Congress. They've given him $500,000, and that was a giant waste because he works for Israel already. So
hang on, Cenk. Randy Fine, when you said, I don't give a shit about Gazans, were you proud of that statement?
Well, I think the context there is Gaza attacked Israel on October 7th. Of the thousands of people who streamed across the border to kill every man, woman, and child that they could, many of them, thousands of them, were not, quote unquote, card-carrying members of Hamas. And so when you start a war and you are losing the war, if you do not like what that is doing to you, then you surrender in that war. Gaza chose to be the enemy. Gaza chose to attack Western civilization. And no, I didn't care what happened. It was my view that if they didn't like it, they needed to surrender. Something, by the way, they still haven't done, because yesterday the Gazans killed another IDF soldier in a place that even under the peace deal, they are allowed to be.
Why do you call them?
I don't care historically about the Germans.
Randy Fine, I've not had actually any guest. I have to be honest here. I've not had any guest who has used the phrase Gazans rather than Hamas, given it was specifically Hamas that perpetrated the appalling terror attacks on October the 7th. It is Hamas that has the governmental power still in Gaza. It's not the Gazan people. It's not the civilian population. So why are you deliberately conflating Gazans in totality with Hamas?
Because that is a propaganda lie. I'll give you 2 points. Number one, thousands of the people who streamed across the border on October 7th were not members of Hamas. That has been well established. Thousands of people came across the border who were so-called civilians. And second, polling just came out today. That said if an election were held in Gaza today, Hamas would win overwhelmingly. Does that mean every Gazan supports Hamas? No, it does not. But to try to differentiate the two attempts to imply that some small percentage of Gazans support or like Hamas, that is not what the data suggests. And we should not allow us to say these two are completely different, Gazans and Hamas.
Let's start with the most straightforward part of this exchange, because Piers Morgan actually said the thing that needed to be said, and it is worth acknowledging. He pointed out that in his experience hosting that show, no guests had ever used the word Gazans instead of Hamas when referring to the October 7th attacks. Because Hamas is the organization that carried out the attacks. Gazans are 2 million people, the overwhelming majority of whom are civilians, children, families, elderly people with no role in what happened on October 7th and no mechanism to surrender on Hamas's behalf, even if they wanted to. Randy Fine's response to that distinction was to call it a propaganda lie and argue that polling showing Hamas would win a hypothetical election proves Gazans and Hamas should be treated as the same target. That logic would justify punishing any civilian population for the political choices of their government, including Americans, for the choices of theirs. And this is not a position Fine stumbled into on a bad day. The receipts are dated and specific. On July 22, 2025, responding to a news report that 15 people in Gaza, 4 of them children, had died of famine in a single day, Randy Fine posted 3 words on X: starve away. He called the underlying report Muslim terror propaganda. That same day, the House Foreign Affairs Committee announced him as a new member. The man who publicly called for the starvation of a civilian population was rewarded with a seat on the committee that oversees American foreign policy and foreign aid. Nobody stopped it. Nobody removed him. 2 months before the Starve Away post, he had gone on Fox News and said Gaza should be nuked, not Hamas facilities. Gaza, the territory, the people. Cenk Uygur named the accountability gap directly. Israelis have killed nearly a dozen American citizens in the West Bank with zero accountability from the United States government. An Israeli government official came to the United States and was accused of attempting to assault children and was allowed to leave the country without facing justice. And Randy Fine's response to all of that is to defend the foreign government, dismiss American victims, and demand deportation of American citizens who criticize that government's conduct. Cenk put it plainly, Randy Fine represents Israel, not America. The documented financial record supports that. AIPAC put over $120,000 into Fine's campaign directly, with total pro-Israel lobbying network contributions exceeding $400,000. Fine himself boasted publicly that he was AIPAC's fastest ever endorsement and then posted that they had him for free, meaning his positions were already fully aligned before any money changed hands. Then there was a deportation demand against Zohar Mamdani, which Randy Fine made on camera, with the confidence of a man who has never once worried about accountability. Fine argued Mamdani had lied on his naturalization application by not disclosing DSA membership. DSA is a legal American political organization. Membership in a legal political organization is not fraud on a naturalization application. What Fine described as political loyalty testing for citizenship, the idea that the wrong views make your presence in this country revocable. If that standard were applied consistently, citizenship would stop being a right and become a lease that whoever holds power can terminate. And here is how Fine's prediction about New York staged. He said Mamdani could only win through people who grew up with values other than being American. On January 1st, 2026, Zulfran Mamdani was sworn in as the mayor of New York City, the first mayor of that city to take the oath on the Quran, with Bernie Sanders swearing him in at the public ceremony. The city Fine warned about, held a vote. The city disagreed with him. That is how American values actually work. You do not get to lose an election and then revoke the voters. And here is what the man with the foreign values actually did with the job. On June 25th, 2026, the Rent Guidelines Board voted 7-1 to freeze rents on roughly 1 million rent-stabilized apartments after Mamdani pushed for it. 1 million apartments. Think about what a frozen rent means in the year your groceries did not get cheaper. That is the difference between a difficult month and an eviction notice for families living on the edge. Fine called the people who voted for that barbarians inside the gate. The barbarians wanted to keep their homes. The pattern of Fine's statements over 7 months tells you exactly where this logic goes if nobody stops it. July, starve the Gazans. October, deport an American citizen for his politics. February, if forced to choose between Dobbs and Muslims, the choice is not difficult, aimed at a supporter of the new mayor. Gazan, then citizen, then faith. 7 months. The circle always expands. Anyone who tells you it stops at the first target has not read a history book, and Fine is betting you have not either. He still sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee today. Nobody censured him. Nobody stripped his committee assignment. The documented record of what he said is public. The dates are real, the posts are still up, and the accountability gap between what he said and what happened to him as a result is the most important fact in this entire story. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification. I'll see you in the next one.